So, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. This is our part two for Samia's episode. It was a fantastic story, fascinating story. We had to finish it. So, here we had to finish it. The camera angles are a little bit different, and you'll see that, but it's fine. The content is the same.
Yeah.
So we had gotten to the point where we had heard about the crazy tips that you potentially get at, or you when Art Cafe had just started.
Yeah.
You are now also providing for your daughter and dealing with someone in special needs. And you couldn't get back into the acting space because you had now been pregnant and now you had finished. So you had been sort of written off of a couple of the series that you were in. And so you get into bartending as a way of being able to, I guess, earn some money. And so now I guess we're going to really get into that and understand your journey from there and what the finances and financial journey for your life look like moving from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, at what point do you decide that this is going to be like a career path that you're actually going to explore? And what makes you make that decision? Is it the amount of money that you're making, or is it the enjoying the craft?
So, like, what led me to decide, like, this is where I want my life to be? This is, say, maybe what I want to do for the rest of my life. I started researching, and I remember back then, like, we didn't have as much access as we have to, like, YouTube right now, and there weren't even books being sold about it, but I put myself out there. So I started doing some research, and I remember back then there was this, I think he's the first ever Kenyan ambassador for spirits. And also, like, I was thinking about this, like, I think today, when people confuse ambassadors like spirit ambassadors and influential ambassadors, because it's also something that I get to later in life.
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe I'll talk about it then. But ideally, there was this spirit ambassador who used to come do trainings for us. And I was in awe of how much knowledge he had. And I was like, how does one get to have so much knowledge? How do you get to have this job that you have? He was like, just do your research, read as much as you can in the spirits world, start researching about bartenders out there, just see what people do and push yourself together. And since I was working in a bar that had so many spirits, like, you could do anything, like, it was open. And I had, fortunately, I was free and I could explore. We had a menu of 150 cocktails, so that was a lot again. So anyone working there had a very vast knowledge of spirits and mixing and being able to make all these cocktails. So that's what pushed me. And uh, one is me wanting to be like him. And I wanted to put myself out there because I was like, no, he's doing good, earning good money, first of all, earning good money. He has all this knowledge. He's coming to share this knowledge. So the idea initially came from there. I just wanted to be like that person who will be passing on knowledge to other bartenders, and bartenders will look up to me. But then I was just starting, so I had a long way to go. So the first challenge that I got was, so I left at Cafe, went to work for Kempinski when it was opening. So that's the first challenge that I got, and I got to create a menu for the restaurant that I was working in. And I was like, oh, it was approved by the GM. I was like, oh, wow. So I have something in me.
Yeah.
And then while I was there is when I got to go to my first ever cocktail competition. And I wasn't ideally going there to win. I just wanted to see, what do other people do in these competitions. And I think, again, I was ahead of my time when I went for that competition. Because I was working in this Asian restaurant, and the cocktail that I made was a cocktail that resembled one of the soups that we used to serve. Like, it was like a soup in a cocktail. So if you've had that soup and you took that cocktail, it was tasting exactly the same.
Okay.
So, and then I think the judges were confused. That's how I take it. That's my take on it. Because everyone else was just making regular cocktails. And then they were like, how did you come up with this? How did you think about this? And then still, I think we were not yet there cocktail-wise as,
In the region.
yeah,
Okay.
even in Nairobi, people didn't have that exposure. But you see, I'd gone an extra mile. I'd done some my research. And then I was like, this is what people are doing out there. But then that knowledge or that exposure wasn't yet here. So for me, it was like, why are you making such a cocktail? Then it was like, for you to be a good bartender, you need to do flair. It was all about flair, your showmanship. I don't think it was really about the drink, because I remember the person who won then just made a cosmopolitan, and it was like he was good on flair, and I was like,
Oh, and
really?
the mixing
Like,
up
yeah,
and
it was
everything.
confusing for
Okay.
me. So I was like, is this what competitions are all about? So after that, I went to another competition. So the second one that I went for, so the first one that I did was an absolute competition, absolute vodka. Then the second one that I did was a Jameson competition. So that one, at least, like, there was creativity. People were going out of their way, making really amazing drinks, amazing flavors. And so now from there, that's when now I entered world class. Still while I was working at Kempinski, I entered world class in 2015. That was the first world class ever held in Kenya. So I didn't make it to the top, I think it was top 10 that year. So I didn't make it to the top 10. And so I entered, oh, but my cocktails were bad. That one, I can say those cocktails were bad. Now, like, I see pictures of those cocktails and the presentations, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, but, we learn. So the following year, again, I went back to Art Cafe. So this time, at least, I'd gained some knowledge and all that. So when I went back to Art Cafe, I became the buzz manager for Art Cafe. So then there were only 12 Art Cafes. Yeah, compared to now.
Yeah, right.
So it was manageable and all. And then is when I met my mentor. Like, and I would say having a mentor is something really important,
Okay.
because I would say my bartending career is where it is because of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before you move on to your mentor, you've given us sort of your career progression. What does the financial progression look like at all those different positions at the different restaurants?
Okay, so like when I left, when initially I was at Art Cafe, I think then I was earning like 9K. So when I went to Kempinski, the money was good, and it was good not salary wise, because I think we're getting paid like 20K. But then there was service charge, there was also like good tips. So ideally in a month I would make about 80 to 100. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
it
majority
was,
of it coming from everything else other than
yeah, other
yeah.
than my pay slip. Yeah,
Okay.
it was coming from everything else other than my pay slip. And I think life was good. Yeah, and I became obsessed with trying to fix my kid. So that's where all my money went. And I say being exposed is a blessing and a curse at the same time, because at times you know so much and you want to fix it, but some things can't be fixed. And before you get to that stage where things can't be fixed, then at times it's too late.
Okay.
Or at times you've spent so much more. And yeah, so most of my money was going to getting her therapy, like good therapy and all that. And also, I'm an outgoing person, so also, yeah.
You are living life.
I was living life. I was
Okay.
living life, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so by the time you come back to Art Cafe, are they then are they at least matching your salary from where you are leaving, or are they upping it?
No, so ideally they just matched it. Not the pay slip one, because like I negotiated
Yes.
for like, oh, I want 100, but then I think I was not knowledgeable enough money wise in terms of how to negotiate for a contract, because I think it's the first contract I ever negotiated for. And then I was like, oh yeah, I just want 100. So I didn't know that the 100 was gross.
Yes.
In my head, I'm thinking, oh, my pay slip or my take home will be that 100.
Yes.
So yeah, and
That's what that looked like.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what that looked like.
Then, in terms of I want to ask you a bit about the menu you put together at Kempinski.
Yeah.
When you're putting together a drinks menu, what are the
Yes.
things that you're taking into consideration to have a good, menu?
So first of all, so like I said, I was working for a Pan-Asian restaurant. So if it's it's the theme. First of all, who's your target? Who are the people that you expect to be coming to the place? You need to look at that. So that kind of puts you in a space where what kind of ingredients should I use, or the spirits that I should use. So if, for example, if it's this Asian restaurant or bar, I need to use some Asian ingredients in it just to go with the theme of that. So one thing you look like is what clientele are you looking? Are you looking to get into that place? What's the theme of the place? And what's the taste that you're looking into? So things, and then also to balance a menu, you need to give options. Like, I have something sweet because there are people who like sweet cocktails. I have something sour. Also, I have something strong. I have something refreshing, so that you have all the options for anyone who is coming in, so that it's not like, oh, your whole cocktail menu is super boozy, so nobody like, it's only a few people who can relate to
Right.
it. So it's one, giving options, two, the taste flavors that you're looking into, and also your target consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My next question is on the competition. Ideally, what are you being judged on? What are the metrics that I guess people ought to pay attention to when you're going for a cocktail
For cocktail competition.
competition?
So for cocktail competition, and this, let me speak this on the world class
Okay.
side. So there are two major competitions, the major one is world class that I have participated in, but also I did a Bacardi Legacy. When I was working for Bacardi, I took someone to participate in the Bacardi Legacy. So those are the two biggest cocktail competitions in the world. Yeah, so like every bartender looks into being part of that. And speaking from that point of view, as opposed to like the local ones, so one is who you are as a bartender. What's your personality? Because also personality matters. As much as I'm selling this drink, what's what's the over and beyond that comes with it? Because someone can make a fantastic drink, but they don't know how to sell it. So your personality also gets into that. So I think then I don't know if the marking has changed, but I remember personality had the biggest cause.
And how do you bring that out?
Yeah.
Because
So
you're not
that's
selling the drink to the judges, are you? You're just
yeah.
making the drink.
So it's how you express yourself.
Okay.
So like ideally everyone has their own personality, but it's how you come off. Are you like it doesn't have to be, some people come off as entertaining, so they will get you with their entertainment. Some people are super knowledgeable. Some people is the way they look, or the way the way they'll present themselves. Some people is their personality is in their flair, and flair, I don't mean throwing things up and all that, is how they carry themselves behind the bar. So when I was doing my training for the competitions, one thing I focused on was Japanese bartending. That really inspired me, because it's about how neat you can be, like no drops, nothing, like super clean. It's how you hold your shaker, how you hold your jigger, less noise. It's like it's a dance. It's a dance, but a precise dance. So that's my style. That's
Okay.
my style. I'm
So
not
that's what you took from, I guess.
Yes, so that's what I took
Okay.
from. So I've never been a flair person, and for me,
So like the
yeah,
whatever, the dancing, the spinning.
yeah, because people will meet me and they say, "Oh, hey, Samia, you're that mixologist. Also, can you do flair?" I'm like, "I don't do flair." Then how come you're a mixologist? So there are different ways. So there's the American bartending, there's the Japanese bartending, there's contemporary bartending. So it depends which one you feel like you're most comfortable with.
Okay.
So yeah, ideally that. So personality, one of the biggest things, that how you come off, because that's the only way you're able to sell your drink. Because is someone watching you wanting to have whatever it is that you're making? Because you can be looking at someone and you're like, oh, whatever they're making, that whatever it is, I want it, just from the way they're making it. Then the other thing is, how well do you know how to balance flavors? Yeah. Then the other thing is, do you know your spirits? Because as much as people think like at times mixology is just because I can mix, then that's it. But there are spirits that go with specific things. Say, for example, if anything, say, from South America or South American spirits, those ones you would use lemon. But then European spirits, you would use lime in them. So balancing, also understanding how balance, or is it, as much as say alcohol is bitter to
Right.
many people, but there are spirits that are classified as
Right.
sweet according
Right.
to their flavor profiles. So what is it that can go with it? So like, for example, rum, if you're making a sweet cocktail, rum is, perfect because it complements that. If you want something a bit on the subtle side, something like whiskey, because whiskey can, depending on where it comes from, it will give you either sweet, or it will give you, a bit stronger flavors or smoky flavors. So also understanding that. So basically is personality, understanding of your flavors and balancing, and also this how well you know the spirits. And of course, if you're going for the brand competitions, you need to understand that brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in knowing the spirits, is there different types of learning in the sense that do you taste a lot of spirits to try and figure them out, or are you looking at the ingredients and you'd be like, okay, if X and X if it has this and this, then it's more inclined on this side. Yeah. Or have you
So
found yourself?
initially,
Yeah.
you have to taste to acquire,
The-
to acquire the
okay.
taste. But then later on, like with more exposure to more spirits and different kinds of spirits, there are spirits that you can just smell and be like, I know what the profile flavor
For
of
this
this
would
spirit
look like.
is without even tasting it.
Okay.
But then you need to have been
The
exposed.
experience to
Yes,
have that
yeah, yeah.
to have that ability.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I've heard you talking about the ability to sell a drink, the ability to sell a drink, the ability to sell a drink. In the institutions and the restaurants you've worked for, have you had a responsibility to sell your drinks? Do you have like a quota you need to meet in terms of the drinks that you're selling?
So, yeah, ideally it's to grow sales, but I'll say this mostly. Say now I'm more in the training space, like managing and training. But say when I was directly as a bartender, uh, it was like the more sales you make, the better it is for you, because it's like you're doing. But for me, ideally, it's not like you're given. There was no target for like
Drinks.
for the drinks that you get to sell, but then is how many people want to come buy from your side, because now you see the way the bar is. So it will be like you're competing against your peers in that, oh, everyone wants to come and buy from my side, or they want to come sit here. As much as we're all making the same drinks, but I think my engagement is good. And of course, if I'm engaging, then it means the more engaged, the more you buy.
And
So,
does that have a
yeah.
correlation to how much money you make in any way, sort of form?
No, no.
So it's just like internal ego.
Yes, it's internal ego and feeling like, oh yeah, everyone comes to my side.
Right. Okay. Unfortunate. I mean,
Yeah.
one would assume that there would be like a literal financial
So I would
direct
say
correlation.
maybe the only thing is you'll get more tips compared.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right,
you'll
right,
get
right,
more
right,
tips.
right.
But in terms of what you're paid, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you worked in a club in Kenya?
No, and I would never work in a club.
Oh no. How well now you said you're in the training space, but even before, why
Yes.
would that not be a place that you'd
Even before, that's because for me it's about creating, and clubs is people just wanna, it's bottle
It's a
service,
beer,
beer
right.
service, and then there's not one club that makes any good cocktails. Yeah,
your-
and someone please correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
but there's not a club that makes any good cocktails, because that's not their main business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now that you've asked that, I have to ask you. So, where do you think what and without naming where you work,
Yes.
where do you think has the best cocktails in Nairobi or in Kenya for that matter?
So 2 or 3 of my favorite places. One I haven't been in a while. So one is Cinnamon at the Alchemist.
Okay.
Yeah, the bar upstairs, because that's one of the cocktail bars. I think there are 3. If and unless something else has come up, I don't know. But there are only 3 cocktail bars in Nairobi, I would say. One is Cinnamon.
In your professional opinion.
In my professional opinion, yes. Cinnamon, then there's Hero, that's a cocktail bar as well. Then there's Revolver, which is also a cocktail bar. Why I call them cocktail bars? It's because they're the only bars that, you're not going there to buy beer. If you're walking in there, you're going for a cocktail or maybe wine. If you go, to outside, it's wine mostly. But their main business is cocktails. Like I would say 90% of what they produce is cocktails. 10% is other things. But
So,
this other bars
yeah.
is like, we make cocktails, but everyone is having beer, and then you have 2 tables having cocktails.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So these are the 3 that you're saying are the best places to have cocktails, essentially.
Not the best to
Yeah.
have cocktails,
Yeah.
but the only cocktail bars.
Okay.
There are
No,
other
but
places.
I was asking you which ones have the best cocktails.
The best cocktails.
in
Okay,
Nairobi.
according to me
Yes.
and my taste.
Yes.
So of course, those 3. Then there's Beit Salam. Yeah, there's
not heard of it.
it's just here in Westland.
Okay.
But there's Beit Salam. They have amazing cocktails. Then where else? and not where I work, of course. I think those are my 4 favorite places for,
Yeah.
like, if I want to go out for
For
cocktails,
like a great cocktail.
those are the places I would go for cocktails.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess now we can talk a bit about your mentor. I guess who is your mentor? What impact did your mentor have, and why do you have such reverence for who they are, and why you accredit so much of where your career is now to them?
Yeah. So what I would say is, like I said, when I went back is when he was new in the company. So it's someone I had not met before. And so let me just put the perspective of this so that you understand like where we come from. So the first day I met him, we had a conversation, I think from 2 p.m. to about 11 p.m. That is
A
how
9-hour conversation.
yes, like, and it was not like a meeting, or I was just going to meet him, introduce myself, and yeah, bye bye, we'll be working together, that kind of a thing. But then we had so much in common that the conversation kept going and going and going. And I think from that one time conversation that we had, maybe he saw the potential in me, but it's just that I didn't have that exposure. Yeah, because he'd worked around the world, so he knew, and he was coming from a bartending background, so he knew about bartending in Europe, in the Middle East, and all that. So he had that knowledge in him. But then here it's me speaking so much about bartending, and then he's like, "Hi, little girl, I do not think you've seen the world," that kind of a thing. But so I think it's from that, the potential that he saw in me, and he decided to guide me. So he was like, you don't think anything that you're making here in Kenya is the most amazing thing that has ever been made. People out there are doing amazing things. And the only way you can get better in your competition, so then is when I was now, that was 2016, that's when I was now doing the world class, the one that I won. And he was like, yeah, you can't just think local. Yeah, you need to widen your knowledge, study as much as you can, whatever spirits you need, if we can get them to Kenya, we'll bring them to you. Just experiment as much, know different flavors.
Okay.
That's the only way out.
Okay.
So yeah, he took me through that journey. He's still my mentor, and he's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So yeah, like,
Did he guide you financially at all?
Financially,
In so far as your career as a bartender was concerned or is concerned?
if there's one thing he told me, which is a lie, then he was telling me, you know what, because there were times I was like, oh God, I'm done. It's too much for me. He's like, no, you wait. When you get to 35, you will rest. You'll be earning good money. So until then, you're not resting. Turned 35, I didn't rest, but at least I have good money. So yeah, but one thing he kept pushing on me is like, the results are not now. So like, if you want your good money now, it's not a now gratification. You need to put the work into it, and then you become so knowledgeable and so good at what you do that whatever amount you put down there, anyone will be willing to pay, because they know the value that you're bringing in. So don't think of it now. It may take time. It took 5 years. It may take time. It may take time, but then you will see the value then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about now this value that you then took 5 years to build. What are the value? You've put the grind, you've put the work in for these 5 years. So what are the things that you're now seeing at that 5-year mark that you'd be like, oh yeah, these are the fruits of my labor? And also, did winning the masterclass, the world class competition, have a financial impact on how much you could command or how much you could ask for?
So after I won world class,
Yes.
I got interviewed by Bacardi, so I went to work for them. I went for lesser money than I was earning.
When you went to Bacardi?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you make that decision?
So first of all, please don't hang me for this, but anyway, they were not believing that as a bartender I was earning that much.
At
Yes,
cafe?
Yes, at cafe. They were like, do bartenders earn this much?
And this was the 100 plus that you were making at that
Yes.
cafe?
So they were like, I don't think there's any bartender who earns more than 100K. Like, what kind of a bartender are you, you know? So it was like, so we are willing to give you this. So I think I went for like almost 30K less when I went to work for Bacardi. But the reason why I went, even if like I was getting lesser, of course, there were benefits in Bacardi. You got bonuses and all that. So at the end of the day, you know, that will be filled in. So it wasn't such a loss because it's not like, okay, this is the only money that you're getting and final. Okay. Yeah. And then also there was an opportunity for growth. But the main reason why I went to Bacardi was I wanted to learn more. Okay. And me continuing to be a bartender, it would have reached a point where it will be like, same thing, you know, it becomes routine. And then I'm not learning anymore because my duty is to train people and all that. And as much as I want to put myself out there or learn and all that, I have to take time out of my work. So, and Bacardi was an opportunity, you know. First, I got to travel so much, yeah. And then I got to meet many, many different influential people in the bartending industry. And they mentored me, like, they took me in. They taught me anything that like I had questions about or things that maybe I didn't know and I was curious about knowing them. So I learned in the 5 years that I was in Bacardi, I think I got information overload and knowledge overload. Right. So it was so much learning when I was there. Okay. And that is like the one thing that now I think gives me more value compared to, say, someone else who, yeah, you've been bartending, I don't know, for 20 years, but then you haven't had any other exposure outside of that or any learning or, you know, but you've been there. Yeah. But then for me, it might be, yeah, this is my 15th year, but in hospitality, but it will be like, it might seem less, but then the knowledge that I've gained, yes, there's a lot of value that I have. And at times is like, okay, fine, I grew up in Bacardi. Yeah, financially also it became better because, you know, the longer you stay and all that with in corporates, you know, you get to get more and all. Yeah, so it was a good thing. Yes. But now it made me, I think, the most expensive bartender in Nairobi. So I don't know. There are other 3 people I know. Yes. We are 3 of us. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes. But I think there's only 3 bartenders in Nairobi or in Kenya. Let me just put it in Kenya. People who still call themselves bartenders. I'm not talking about someone who's like was a bartender and then they changed. They have transitioned to something else. But someone who's still working behind the bar, I think once I know there's 3 of us who like, no, we can't afford you. Yes.
And by can't afford you, are we talking 100, 200K, 300K?
So one of the 3 of us is, I know they're earning like 400 and someone else 300 and the other one about 200 there. So yeah.
Okay. What's the most expensive bartenders in Kenya? This is per month.
This is per month. Okay. And yeah, not counting, I don't know if they have any other benefits or tips, bonuses, all that. Yes.
And what does it take to get to be valued at that level as a bartender? Is it just the things you're talking about, the exposure, what you're bringing to the table, the ability to craft different cocktails and tastes and infusions, and also, so even these guys who are earning, I guess the 3 of you who are earning the excess amount that you're earning, there's no revenue attribution to at the companies that you're working. So they won't tell you, okay, we'll pay you X amount, but you have to sell X amount of cocktails.
So of course there's the targets, the sales. There has to be incremental sales, but it's
collective.
Like it's collective. Okay. Yeah, it's collective.
And at this position, you'd be like the head of the.
Of course, you are the head. Okay. You are the head. Yeah.
Okay. So what have you done with your money since? I guess now that you got into this very lucrative, exclusive bartender club.
So one of the things, I'm a space addict. And space addict by this, I mean, I love houses. Okay. Like, I move a lot, or I have moved a lot. Because I'll just walk and I'll be like, oh, that's a beautiful apartment. I want it. And I will take it. So most of my money goes there. In living around a lot of money that the agents don't give back, your deposit and all that. So I think that's my biggest spend.
Expense.
Yeah, my biggest expense. Apart from that is me trying to fix things that I stopped trying to fix things. So this is more in my daughter's medication, and not medication like the one that she needs, but ideally me trying to find other different things and
Or to try and solve.
solve. And I think it's until COVID came that I stopped. I was like, no,
This is
because
life.
there's a treatment I tried for her just in 2019. Well, that dipped me somewhere hard, because it's like she was already too old to get that treatment. So there was the preparedness, or the I don't know how to put it, like what she needed to do before she got that treatment.
Right, the prerequisite, yeah.
Yeah, costed me so much that I'm still in debt until now because of
of
that. Yes, and this happened in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I was like, no, you know what? So I tried to get like a different opinion from a different doctor. The doctor told me, you know what? It's not a guarantee that she's going to get better. So you'll have spent all this money and she won't get better. Then you'll be beating yourself up. Or it might even get worse for her because she's already too old to get the surgery.
Okay.
So do you want to still keep spending money on it and then nothing happens? Or do you just decide this is what it is and then you keep it on that? So, yeah, I think
came to terms with this is what
I just came to terms with it because it was really hard. That time in 2019, oh God, I was in so much debt. And some of it I'm still paying until now.
Yeah.
So apart from that and me loving my obsession with spaces, I think that's where most of my money goes. Oh, and I love to explore.
Yeah.
New cocktails and new bars.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. As we wrap up now, I guess finish our part two.
Yeah.
First of all, really interesting and intriguing to hear. Do you think there is space for more than 3 bartenders in Kenya to be earning the amounts of money that you guys are earning?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
First of all, people need to put in the work because there are people who are getting into bartending thinking, oh, it's the easy way out, you know? Oh, I'll just go there, I'll just be making drinks. I don't want to add any more knowledge to myself or take classes, do research work. No. So we have lazy bartenders.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying everyone is lazy. I'm just saying we have a crop of lazy bartenders who just think that, me being, I don't know, influential on Instagram and all that, that's all I have to be and people will come. Okay, fine. Social media is helping, but then that person will never get to that level. Yeah. So the only thing is you're an influential person, but ideally you're not, if you're put in a class with like-minded bartenders, there's zero knowledge, yes, to you. And the other thing is also entrepreneurs or business owners need to be able to be ready to pay for someone who's bringing in value.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's also that. Because there are very few, and I think like very few, who are willing to pay for someone who is bringing in value. Because it's like, I know I can get someone cheaper. I just need you to make drinks. Yeah, anyone can make a drink.
Yeah.
Anyone can make a drink. But what's the value that I'm putting into that drink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I guess I would love to see. One more thing.
One more thing. I'd mentioned about the confusion that there is between between being an ambassador and then being an influential one. So because this came up about when I was working for Bacardi, because I was the East African brand ambassador. So someone will ask me, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm the brand ambassador for Bacardi. Oh, but you have 1,000 followers on Instagram?
Yes.
So I'm like, not that kind of an ambassador. I'm not an influencer. This is like advocacy. ambassador. So
Right.
mine is to train people to understand the spirit, to get to know about the spirit and how best to consume it. But then there is the influential ambassador who is
They're
now,
influencers
yeah,
now.
the influencers. Mine is to come, take a picture with a drink,
Make it
or
popular.
make it popular. So those are two different. Those are two different
Jobs.
things. Yes. And yeah, ideally, if you look at most like brand ambassadors, advocacy brand ambassadors,
Who makes
yeah,
more money, the influencers
with
or the brand
of
ambassador?
course, the influencer will make more money.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you think? I mean, looking back now, in terms of the industry that you're in, the work that you've done, do you think that this was the path that would have allowed you to make the most money that you could possibly have made by now? Or do you think, given your options, there were
Yes.
other options that could have led to more money?
I think maybe if I kept, my acting job was still there. Maybe I think
Yeah.
I would have gotten better with time, and I think I would have been making more money. But I didn't think this would be making me more money
As much
then.
money, yeah.
Yes, as much money, because I never saw the possibility of me getting where I am right now.
Yeah.
Because I'd seen the people, I'd seen fellow bartenders. I had never seen anyone apart from, say, now the bartenders who work in other countries, but I've never seen any bartender in Kenya make as much. So it's either you had to transition. You either go now, once you go to corporate, now you, I don't know, you do marketing, you
Yeah.
do sales, then you can make that much money.
Okay.
But I had this was not part of the plan. This just happened.
Okay.
Yes.
But you're content.
I'm content and I'm
Okay.
happy.
And my final question is, given all the travels that you did while you work at Bacardi and seeing different and looking at different bartenders in the world, what's your mentor's name actually?
Yeah.
And who is the most expensive bartender in the world, and what do they charge, if you know? Or what are the rates that they would charge?
I don't really know how much they charge, but I know people who would charge about $1,000 for a guest shift.
So this is
And
like a
that
side,
is
like a side gig.
And that's like a side gig. That's not their main job. So I know that. I know that, but I'm sure.
And this is their fee. This is like outside of the cost of the drinks or anything else that.
Yes,
the-
this
the
is
person throwing the
me,
party would
me
need to
showing up.
provide.
Just
$1,000.
me showing up.
Yeah.
$1,000. Yes, I know that, and I'm sure there are people who are more expensive than that because the one that I know charges that, or the ones that I know that charge that much, they're not even like. They're not the most expensive. They're not the most expensive from what I know. So these are just the ones that I know. But yeah, there are people you will pay so much more for them to come to your bar.
Okay.
Yes.
Mentor's name, if you can tell us.
Oh, my mentor's name.
Yes.
My mentor's name is Yaniv. So he still is my boss. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much for coming to talk to us about the bartending and mixologist space. I think you have a fascinating story, and I've learned a little bit from you. I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And for both parts, as you guys will notice, the camera shifted. We're in different clothes. It's shot on a different day. But yeah, really happy to have you come on the show, and we hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah?
This has been fun.
It was good?
Yeah.
All right. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.